Previously on Cloud Management Monthly.
Hi everyone, welcome to Cloud Management Monthly. My name is Sunny Dua and I'm your guest today.
What we have in store for the next release in VRealize Operations and Operations Cloud.
8.2 is just a step in the direction of the bigger picture, which we have been kind of thinking of. Infrastructure and software is being bought by our customers to serve the line of businesses and the applications, right? We can take some years and build an application performance management platform, or we can listen to our customers who have already bought AppDynamics, Datadog, New Relic, Dynatrace, and we should just integrate with that and get what is important for the infrastructure teams to get a full line of sight from applications to infrastructure from a pre-curated set of metrics. So from a Kubernetes standpoint, we need to leverage those existing Prometheus, get data into vROps so that enterprise can look into the full stack visibility of the applications and infrastructure. But we want to make sure that we have a platform and platform level capabilities which they can simply leverage to extend monitoring, extend capacity, extend costing, extend compliance to these third-party platforms as well.
Hi, I'm Brandon Gordon. I'm the guest on this month's Cloud Management Monthly, and here we are, handed over to Matt or Dan.
Welcome everybody to Cloud Management Monthly. My name is Dan Kerr. I am here again for episode 4 with Matt Bradford. Matt, how are you doing today, sir?
A little chilly today, but I'm doing fine otherwise. Fall is finally here. How about yourself, man?
Yeah, the leaves are definitely changing. It's almost time to bring out all those hoodies and sweatshirts here in Buffalo, so yeah.
Right, exactly. Too bad, VMworld was virtual, otherwise we'd both have closets full of new swag to wear. But
that's exactly right. Yep. So here we are, a couple weeks outside of VMworld and virtual this year. So what were your kind of thoughts?
Yeah, I think we're making the best of the situation that is 2020, obviously, right? With ourselves, all the other tech conferences. I'm hoping that our audience got as much out of it as they would with a physical event. I know the ability to kind of network and talk with people. I mean, there are people that I only see once a year at VMworlds. Actually, you're one of them too, right? And you're only a short, 3-4 hour car ride away. But just kind of making the most of it, right? And it was nice. We did have some live sessions to meet with our customers and everything, and those are always great to get questions and just kind of get a good feel for how everybody's using our products. That part of it was still nice, so we still had some aspects of that.
VMworld for me was pretty good. I liked all the announcements. I caught all of your sessions. Certainly there was that miss of the human interaction and all that kind of fun stuff. A lot of it felt like just kind of my quarterly training. The format was really good, and also the way that you can change from channels I really like too. So looking forward to VMworld 2021, and hopefully we'll all be I'll be back on site.
VMworld this year, I mean, from the cloud management business unit, we've got a number of announcements that we made. I guess probably first and foremost is the VRealize Cloud Universal, which is basically kind of a more flexible licensing model as we're moving a lot of our services toward SaaS with VRealize Automation Cloud, VRealize Operations Cloud, Log Insight Cloud, right? Moving all these to SaaS and then having a more flexible licensing model and having the ability to consume these both on-prem and as SaaS is kind of a very, very useful thing as customers are looking to migrate to SaaS-based services. VRealize AI is another big one. So this is something that we've been working on for quite a while now, and this is really kind of in its first state is the self-tuning of vSAN. So leveraging machine learning to be able to analyze and study the behaviors of your vSAN environments and to be able to tune it for the best performance possible. That got announced. That is in initial availability now, just coming out of beta. VRealize Automation 8.2, VRealize Operations 8.2, and Log Insight 8.2, right? All new products that we talked about a lot at VMworld. So a lot of cool, great news coming out of the CMBU this year.
Yeah, I think that vRealize Cloud Universal is something that is really interesting, right? Allowing customers to be able to kind of adopt hybrid cloud on their own, right? Helping them through that migration process of going from on-premises to cloud. So I'm really, looking forward to learning more about how I can help my customers understand that. And the other announcements were great. I mean, certainly the vRealize Ops and vRealize Automation, nice. Even though they're an 8.2 update, there's just so many great features that are built into those. What a great great time for cloud management at VMworld. Some really fantastic announcements. I really enjoyed hearing all of them.
And speaking of fantastic, we've got a fantastic episode for you today, talking about how to run your infrastructure like a cloud provider. And we've got a very special guest on here. And I guess, Dan, with that, let's bring him on. Let's introduce Brandon Gordon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So now I work with you in the cloud management technical marketing team on vRealize operations. Been awesome working with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe how long you've been at VMware, what kind of things you've done.
Sure thing. So I've been with VMware, I guess 7 years this month. So it's been a little while. I've had several different roles. Oh, thanks. I've had several different roles while I've been at VMware. I was originally brought on to work on vRealize operations. I dealt with a lot with our internal customers. So back then it was like the vCloud Air team. We have our OneCloud team internal, some other big customers that were using vRealize operations. And then from there, it kind of became like customer success. So I dealt a lot with customer escalations and customers using vRealize operations, but having some challenges and needed help taking advantage of the product. And then transition from there to the service provider team, so the VCPP team. And again, still focused on vRealize operations, but dealing with service providers. So a lot of really big companies, and this is the service providers either using vRealize operations internally or creating services that they can offer to their customers. And then a few years ago, I joined the tech marketing team, doing again vRealize operations. But prior to that, I was actually a customer. So I was a vSphere admin, cloud architect for a large company. So I had a lot of vSphere experience. It was a pretty good size environment back then. I was say 7 years ago. So it's I think it was over 5,000 VMs at the time. So fairly decent size. So we also use vRealize operations and a few other products, but that kind of leads into where I am today.
I think
actually been using vRealize operations since it was integrating alive, so even before VMware bought it.
Yeah, that's pretty early. I think my first foray into it was like pre-6, like 6.1, 6.2, something like that, working for a customer. And that's how I started liking the product and seeing the power of it and what it could do for the organization was having all that hands-on time with it. So it was kind of a natural fit for me coming over here that I champion it with my customers all the time and make sure that they're getting value out of it because it really can help a lot different areas within the organization too, not just capacity management team, right? There's troubleshooting, there's performance analytics, now costing. So all of that good stuff is really kind of what attracted me to the whole product. So it's great to have you on the show. Thanks a lot for doing this with us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So we just wrapped up VMworld, and it was virtual this year. What were your thoughts on that? How was your VMworld experience, and did you like it? Did you get a chance to see any other sessions? What were your thoughts on VMworld being virtual this year?
Well, being on the technical marketing team, it was a lot of my work was actually doing the preparation. I had 4 different sessions that I had to actually do beforehand, and then I had a couple of live sessions during that. So, it's like most of the effort was, in the preparation phase, getting all the sessions recorded and doing all the coordination and all that stuff. But once we got it, got them uploaded and ready to the site, it was pretty nice. It was pretty smooth. I really enjoyed the live sessions that I did. So I had 2 expert roundtables, and the feedback from the customers and the questions, and I thought that was really awesome. The direct interaction with the customer was the highlight for me, I think.
Yeah, that was definitely nice to have. Now, did you end up 3D printing any swag this year? I mean, just kind of in the spirit of VMworld.
A shirt? Did
No,
you
I
print
should
off and
have.
3D print your shirt?
That was a great idea. I should have done that. That would have been great to show off or something on camera.
Yeah, it was one of those things. The whole virtual piece of it. I was on the other side, right? I didn't present anything. I did catch all your most. I think I caught all your sessions. I know I caught all the ones with Matt from all the tech marketing stuff. But it was just a different. It was a different experience this year, right? I mean, I thought VMworld, was a great job with the layout and the format and everything. But I certainly, as the week went on, was missing being around everybody more and more. So hopefully next year we'll be back. Fingers crossed, we'll be back to a live event, and we can all kind of get together and have some fun.
Yeah, I hope they have some more live, more direct interaction opportunities, even if it is virtual. Yeah, I think there needs to be that more more interaction and networking directly with the with the audience and customers and peers and all that stuff.
Did you like preparing this year versus the live events? Which was better or worse?
I don't know. I don't know. It's probably about the same. I mean, there was a lot of stress on getting the videos recorded and prepared, but if I was doing it live, it would have been the same sort of stress, but I would have just been there at VMworld talking to people thinking, am I ready to do this demo?
Yeah.
So I think it's probably the same as it would have been, but
yep.
Just slightly different.
We didn't necessarily have that extra week or couple of weeks because the videos had to be turned in so early. Plus, we're riding this vRealize Operations 8.2 launch, and it's like, okay, are things going to be ready to demo weeks ahead of time? It's like, man, if we were just doing this thing live, and if I had 2 more weeks, like this would be a dream come true. But I think we pulled it off pretty well, though.
Yeah, and some of the demos I had to go like, I can demo this feature on this system, this feature on that system, this feature on the other system, because not all the code has been checked in. So it's like you have to get different instances from engineering that show the different features, and stitching that together and making it look seamless is takes some work there.
That's the magic of it, right? The magic of it all. Yeah, don't tell any secrets, right? That's the
magic. But now it's all in the same system. It's much easier because you just got one environment to go to, and we can demo whatever we need. It's all there.
Very good.
You can do it all from home too. It's great. And we kind of touched on vRealize Operations 8.2 is out now. vRealize Operations Cloud. We've been obviously focusing for weeks and weeks and probably months even just on getting everything ready for launch. And now that we've got every day, everything's kind of behind us to some degree. Like, what were some of your favorite parts of vRealize Operations 8.2 and vRealize Operations Cloud? What are some of your favorite things that we delivered?
Wow, there's a bunch of things. So I like I cover capacity and cost as part of the features that I own, and the cost aspect is something that is very interesting to me. So there are quite a few improvements both from a cost and a price perspective. So I like both of those. So costing, there's a lot more improvements on cost drivers and the way you can configure them to make it even more meaningful, more accurate cost for your environment. And then on the pricing side, it's some customers don't care about cost. They just want to assign a price based on whatever they want to charge per CPU, per gig of memory, per gig of disk space. So now we can actually define those pricing cards and have them have prices calculated for VMs as well. So I like both of those. But I think I'm a bit biased because those are the features I cover as well.
This is why we have you on to talk. Today's episode is really all about managing your infrastructure like a cloud provider. And like you said, you've got experience working with our cloud providers, even from like the vCloud Air side of things too, right? And so I guess kind of the first question here is, what are some of those KPIs that cloud providers are looking at when they're really trying to tie that infrastructure and tie those workloads and so forth back to the business?
Yeah, so So like looking at it from a service provider perspective, it's really about dealing with like your KPIs, make sure and your any SLAs that you've negotiated with with the customers, and making sure that you're meeting their requirements. So this can be things like making sure that the ready time for your virtual machine is below a certain threshold or reasonable thresholds. There's no swapping of memory. There's no network packet drops. Things like that. So making sure that just from a performance perspective, there's this baseline of what you guarantee to the customer, and that's actually something that's available now in 8.2. We actually have performance KPIs, so you can actually see from a virtual machines perspective, how many KPIs are being met. So we have a CPU, memory, disk, and network KPIs. And then when you look at these new dashboards, you can see if it's breaching 1, 2, 3, or 4 of those. And then you can also look at it from like a cluster perspective to see the performance of the virtual machines themselves from from those KPIs. So you can see like the percentage of virtual machines that have breached their performance KPIs. So that's the kind of service provider type insight is just understanding the scale and having these performance goals that you manage to.
Yeah, very good. And when I talk with a lot of my customers, they talk about trying to get to a cloud operating model, right? Everyone's trying to get to be Google or run their infrastructure like Google or Amazon or Azure. So, how is cost management key to getting to that cloud operating model? Where's the tie-in there for that?
Yeah, so basically, having capacity available, costs money. So you want to make sure that you're getting the best value for your money. So what you want to do is basically have the right workloads and the right size cluster. You don't want to have too large of a cluster to run your workload because those unused resources, that idle CPU, that idle memory, is just wasted money. It's something, if you had waited 6 months to buy the hardware until you needed it, you could have saved 6 months worth of depreciation for the servers. So the idea is looking at it from the capacity perspective, and then the cost associated with that, and then making sure that you manage to both. You manage to make sure you have enough capacity, but you also make sure you're optimizing from a cost perspective as well.
So that's pretty interesting, and
Right.
kind of looking at kind of, I guess, essentially leaving money on the table, right?
Yep.
So what kind of tips do you have for IT organizations? Maybe it's a small business or smaller IT shops that maybe are just kind of a cost center for the business. What are like maybe some of the tips for them to kind of help transition to really being able to show their value and show what they're delivering and show what they're saving back to the business?
Yeah, so out of the box, VROPS Operations has reports that show you the cost of your infrastructure, the cost per data center, and you can even see the costs for like virtual machines. And then you can also look at things like reclamation, where you have powered up virtual machines or idle virtual machines, or just snapshots that are sitting around, orphan disks that are basically not being used by any VMs. All of these items are just sitting there and potentially consuming capacity, which costs money. So the idea is if you can go and find these opportunities for cleaning up, removing virtual machines or deleting snapshots you're not using, deleting disks that you're not using, do all this cleanup, you free up capacity, which allows you to run more virtual machines, and then you basically you don't need to buy new hardware. You can delay buying new hardware, or maybe even run what you need on what the existing hardware that you already have.
Yeah,
Sure.
when I was doing this for a living and working with VROPS operations, we realized that we could consolidate clusters, right? And when we did that, it unlocked all this capacity. And by doing that, we literally deferred purchasing a whole nother set of blades. And there was a real savings there. Like that's where the capacity management team was like, oh wow, I mean there's value there. It's not just numbers or something that you throw up the ladder to the executives to look at green, yellow, or red. So that was a huge benefit right there. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you can get rid of like you don't need as many hosts for like admission control or HA if you consolidate clusters. So just consolidating 2 clusters into one, you actually get another host worth of capacity you could use, assuming you keep the same like admission control settings. So
Right.
there's little things like that you can do to save money as well.
And a lot of these are still kind of at the IT level, right? So what about sort of bringing these metrics and showing all this back to senior management within the organizations? Are there reports or dashboards? Like what do you see a lot of customers do?
Yeah, so there are some out of the box dashboards. So they like the if you go to the homepage, the assess capacity page kind of gives you a high level overview of the environment, and like the data center cost driver one gives you an overview of per data center. And I've also actually created a custom dashboard that actually shows basically your return on investment for using vRealize operations. So this is all the opportunities that you have for savings, and all the cost of everything, and then different cost breakdowns, different ways of looking at the cost of your infrastructure. So it's kind of geared more towards the management layer, where they're more concerned about the infrastructure as a whole, maybe the entire company, that kind of view. So
So we're kind of looking at things of reclamation and ways to consolidate and to save, but are we also looking at other things like the cost of the data center, the electricity, the groundskeeping outside of it, the labor, right? Are we taking into account those types of things?
Yeah, so by default, the system has what we call cost drivers. So these are basically all the components that feed into the cost of your environment. And by default, it comes with these what we call reference costs. So these are basically the MSRP for the server hardware. This is the typical cost for storage, cost for your facilities, maintenance, licenses, etc. But you can actually go in and customize these cost drivers to make them suit your environment. Put actually what you paid for the server, when you bought it, whether you own the server or you lease it. The system can track depreciation if you own the servers. You can actually go in and say how much you pay for storage per gigabyte per month. You can enter your license costs, or if you have an ELA, you can enter your ELA in there. There's a lot of options for configuring all these cost drivers, and the more time you spend on configuring these cost drivers, the more accurate the costs are from the system. So by default, you don't have to configure anything, and the numbers are decent, because they're based on industry numbers. But if you go in and customize them, they become even more meaningful, more designed to you.
Sure, and dialing in those numbers really kind of feeds back again of those cost savings and all those calculations that VRealize Operations is making, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it uses those costs to actually to calculate those cost savings.
Mm-hmm. And then you'd mentioned some of the rate cards and so forth too, right? So kind of diving a little bit, we talked about cost. Maybe we can kind of talk about the pricing, and maybe even just start with what is the difference between cost and pricing?
Yeah, so it's easy to mix the two up. So basic cost is, you think of it like as as a vSphere admin, I'm managing this infrastructure. So cost is how much I pay for basically the infrastructure to run the virtual machines. So this is the cost of the servers, the cost of the facilities, the cost of licenses, all of that stuff is how much I actually pay for all that those resources to actually run the virtual machines. So that's the cost aspect of it. Now, price, on the other hand, is how much I basically want to charge my customers for running the virtual machines. So I can say, even though it cost me $5 a month to run this virtual machine, I'm going to charge my customer $7 a month. So it's basically two different ways of looking at the same thing, but the price, you may want to have a markup. You may have other things like maintenance or service charges or setup fees. There are other things you can add in there beyond. That's not necessarily cost, but it's things you want to charge a customer for using. So that's really the big difference. Is it's the perspective and who sees it.
And then what are some of the things that you can do with those rate cards? I mean, what if I want a highly available application and so forth? Can I adjust what that price of that service is?
Yeah, you can. So the base cost, first, you can have it either the price, you can have it based on cost, or you can have it based on rate. So the cost is basically saying I want to take my cost of the virtual machine times some multiplier, and that gives me my price. So I could do, say, 10% markup for VMs that are in the tier 1 cluster, or maybe I do 200% markup. Whatever makes sense if you want to do it based on cost. so you're basically you're getting that premium charge for those those higher tier virtual machines. The other way is using rate based. So it's basically saying this price times the number of CPUs, this price times the amount of memory, this price times the amount of disk space, and then that gives me my total price for the virtual machines. But you have other options in there. You can add prices based on OS, based on tags. So tags is an easy one. So like if you add a tag that says this VM is DR protected, I can triple the price of the virtual machine to account for the DR site and replication and all that stuff. Or add a tag for backups. Double the price of the storage that it consumes to make sure I cover the cost of the backup infrastructure. So there's just a lot of stuff you can tweak, and it's a matter of going through and figuring out what makes sense in your environment. But tags is probably going to be the easiest one to get a lot of that stuff. But like I said, we can also do it by cluster using the rate cards as well.
So we've covered things like SLAs. We've covered things like consolidating capacity, pricing, costing, all of these things. Now, if we didn't have tools like VRealize operations, these would be a pretty heavy lift, right? Just try to imagine doing all this within Excel or something like that, right? So what kind of benefits does kind of managing all of this with a tool like VRealize operation? What sort of other benefits do IT teams get to realize?
Well, I actually have done this in Excel back when I was a customer, so it is not necessarily that easy of a thing to do, because getting all these costs and doing the formulas, creating the spreadsheet, it's not pretty and it's not fun. And the nice thing about VRealize operations, you configure it and the system automatically does it. It keeps track of it. I mean, it calculates the cost and the price every single day, so you don't have to go through and do all this stuff. I mean, it's such a time saver. You don't realize how much a tool like this really benefits you, because it's every 5 minutes it gets the data, does all these calculations, it updates all this stuff, and you're constantly having the latest and greatest information, and all this analytics is, like I say, it's always being performed. So it's just a matter of going and looking at it, and it's the latest. You don't have to run a script, you don't have to copy and paste, you don't have to put it in Excel and try to create a chart, figure out what you did last month. It's just the automation and the simplicity is really nice. You don't have to worry about it.
Sounds like it could free up certainly a lot of time, but also possibly free up a lot of budget too. Again, if we're trying to delete snapshots or really consolidate and run things as efficiently as possible. Well, now I can take this chunk of money that I thought I was going to have to take into purchasing new hardware and dump that into maybe a new project or something, maybe an experimental, kind of fun project. But it sounds like a lot of benefit to IT teams without having to do a whole lot. I mean, like you said, really kind of customize the tool to what you're actually spending for hardware, whether you're leasing or whether you're purchasing. But once you get that all stood up, sounds like you can reap the benefits, right away.
Oh, definitely. Yes. Yeah, it's great at that.
So I guess, now we can transition and really bring things together. I mean, Brandon, you talked about your return on investment dashboard. And for those of you who are listening to this podcast, be sure to check it out on YouTube, because this will be slightly visual. We'll try to describe things as best as possible for you. But check out Cloud Management Monthly on YouTube as well, so you can actually see this dashboard. And so, Brandon, do you want to kind of take us through this dashboard, what you tried to accomplish with it, and what some of the value is that our customers can see with this dashboard?
Certainly, yeah. Let me show you here what I've got. So this is, like I said, this is a custom dashboard that I created. So this is the intention here. The intention behind this dashboard is to both understand the cost of ownership of your environment, plus all of the recommendations that are provided by VRealize operations, and then how that can affect your your operations. So I have things here like the total cost of ownership, which is how much it costs per month for the infrastructure, and then the total cost of ownership with potential savings and optimization opportunities. So this is basically what I've taken is my total cost of ownership. I've subtracted all of the savings that from all the recommendations and VRealize operations, and then I've added on the cost for some things like fixing oversized or undersized virtual machines. So there's an additional cost for those. So basically, I've just summed it all up and give you these two numbers. So you can see the difference here between these two numbers is how much I can save just by using VROps operations if I go and take action on all of the recommendations.
Now, you've shown this to a lot of customers, right? Are they surprised by these numbers when they see these?
Yeah, some customers are actually quite surprised, and then some other customers, basically say, this looks accurate. This looks correct. I even had one customer that said that saw these numbers, and they sent me an email the next day, said, we now have an official program to go and do optimization of our virtual machine. So we're doing this on a monthly basis now, going through and basically figuring out what we can clean up and what we can save. And this is basically now a monthly thing for this. And just this one dashboard actually highlighted where they can save all this money. So now they're like, all these new servers that I just bought for this data center, I probably didn't need to buy so many of them.
Right.
And this kind of highlighted that for them. I thought it was really great feedback. So I have shown this to a lot of customers. So this has gone through quite a few revisions to get to where it is today. But yeah, there's a lot of feedback, a lot of input has gone into this.
And this is based off a few different dashboards, right, that you've created, right? It's not just one dashboard. It's actually pulling metrics from a few different ones, correct?
It is, yeah. So I actually have created several dashboards. So I have one that I created for just like showing reclamation. So basically looking at what you can reclaim from the environment. Because I have customers asking, well, what if I do all of the reclamation in my entire environment? What is the total impact? They get that kind of question. So I created a dashboard to help answer that. And then I created another one. You have customers like, what if I right-sized all my virtual machines? What does that look like? And then what is my potential cost savings for right-sizing? So I created another dashboard to show the right-sizing impact. And then another customer saying, well, tell me which clusters that have hosts in there that I can reclaim, so I can take them out and I want to use them somewhere else, so I don't have to buy new hardware. So I created a dashboard to show that as well. And then I was talking to another customer that says, well, these are all great, but these are all separate things. I want to see it. I want to see one number, one place. So that's where this dashboard was born. I took all of those other dashboards and took the data from those and consolidated them together to come up with this. So this is the overall view of all of these things together, working together to show you this.
That's awesome. Yeah. So let's dig into it. Highlight a few things here that people can expect to get when they install the dashboards and start to get some good information from this.
Yeah. So I already talked about the cost of ownership and the potential savings. So I've got a section here talking about going a little more detail on the potential savings. So you see here, I've got idle virtual machines, so I can see how much I can save per month for my idle virtual machines, then my powered off VMs. So these are just basically sums of all of the reclamation that is in the environment. I have VM snapshots, how much I can save for those. We've got orphan disks, oversized VMs. So this is the right sizing recommendations. And then we have reclaimable hosts. So this is, like I was saying, this is hosts that, based on the analytics from the capacity engine, you may not need all the hosts in a cluster, so you can take some hosts out. And these are showing the cost of those hosts that you can take out to potentially use somewhere else or retire. And then I just have a total here so you can kind of get an idea of all the savings. And then the last one here is optimization opportunities. So this is kind of looking at it from the other perspective. So this is undersized VMs that are too small, they're not performing well. So you want to make them larger so they can perform better, but there's a cost associated with doing that, making the virtual machines larger. So this is actually the potential increase in costs for those virtual machines. So I'm not just showing you the savings, I'm showing you making things better, and then collectively all that together, you're still saving money. So you're freeing up resources, freeing up capacity, and you're fixing potential performance issues. And the idea is here I can get basically the entire view of the environment from a cost perspective.
Yeah, everything is in one spot. I mean, that's what I really like about this. I mean, you're looking at all of this cost comparison here, really in just one nice little area. You don't have to hunt around, pull up different reports or anything like that. It's right there.
And it's great to see that you're not just doing point in time, you're showing over time too, right? You're showing that total cost of ownership and potential savings over time. That's amazing. Yeah,
that's the important part, I think, is to show those graphs. So, if you have an active program to go and do this this savings and try to get rid of your idle virtual machines, get rid of your powered off virtual machines, and start doing all this reclamation, you should see the gap between your total cost of ownership and your savings start to decrease. That the idea is you'll see this downward trend, so you're becoming more and more efficient. And that's the idea, is you want to be able to see your trend over time as well. So you want to see that you're actually making improvements. And then that also goes into quantifying that VROps operations is actually helping you, because you're seeing these recommendations and you're taking action on them, and you can see that the impact on your cost.
Very cool. So what else? I mean, we're just like at the tip of the iceberg for this dashboard. What else do you have in here? I'm already blown away.
Yeah, there's a lot in
awesome.
here. Yeah, so I actually designed this dashboard so it doesn't have any interactions. So it's just basically you see all the data, and you can scroll through. Think of it almost like a report. It's a visual report that you can go, and the idea is you can just share this. So like if you want to share it with your with your manager or your CTO or whatever, you can just create the share link and send it to them, and they can see all the data. There's nothing they need to click on. I have text in here that explains what all these numbers mean. So I try to make it very friendly, very easy to use. So with that, let me show you some of the other stuff. So there, like I said, there's a lot in here. So like this section here is talking about the average cost per VM. So the idea with this one is, the average cost of your VM, on a larger scale should decrease. So as the new servers, you bring on new servers that can handle more workload, they'll be cheaper, more efficient. When you add capacity, your cost will per VM may grow a little bit, but as you start consuming that capacity, it'll shrink. So the idea is you can see this trending over time. It should trend down, but you'll have little spikes up and down here. It's not going to always be down, but the idea is over time, you should see your average cost per VM go down as well. It's a sign of you becoming more and more efficient at using your environment, whether it's right-sizing your VMs or getting rid of unused resources, or buying larger hosts, higher consolidation ratios, things like that. So the idea is you can get better utilization of your environment.
Yeah, it's also a nice validation too, right? I mean, you see it trending down and you're like, okay, we are making headway on this, right? This is not just a bunch of numbers that people are shuffling back and forth to make a dashboard look good,
Yeah, and if you look at it, say like over a year perspective, you can start seeing a lot bigger trends on what's going on. I know I'm not showing a whole lot of here, but you can, if you look at it on a much larger scale, that's where you can start seeing, yes, you are improving, you're getting better, and showing that efficiency is really great for management to see. Seeing you're able to scale and do more, and because you have tools like VROps operations.
Yeah, for sure.
So I can show a couple other things I have here. So this section is doing what we'll call the total cost of ownership breakdown. So this is actually taking that total cost of ownership and slicing and dicing it in a few different perspectives. So this first one here is looking at it from a cost drivers perspective. So this is where you can look at where all of your costs are going. So I have things like the server hardware, monthly costs for my owned servers versus my leased servers. I have my licensing costs, maintenance facilities, server labor, network storage, and direct costs. So these all align with the cost drivers that I was talking about earlier. So you can go in and customize those cost drivers to match your environment. And the idea here is as you configure those and your environment grows and shrinks, you'll see how those costs change over time. So in this particular example, you can see that the storage piece is by far the most expensive, but it could vary in your environment. I've seen some customers where they're pretty close between the server and storage, but it really is unique to each environment. And the idea here is you just get an idea of which component is the most expensive. Which one do you want to look at more? Like here, like I said, storage. Why is my storage the most expensive? And then that's worth going to look at and understanding. It's probably normal. But
I would say that looks pretty normal to me. I would have thought host OS, and it might be obviously mileage varies from environment to environment, but I would have thought OS license. Well, that's host OS license, right? So that makes sense, right? Yeah. So this would be your vSphere licenses, and then any other licenses that go by the host. So this could be your Windows Server licenses, like your Linux licenses. Anything you license per host would be
included here. So your licenses for things like virtual desktops, which are licensed per virtual machine, would show up under direct costs. So that's kind of the difference where you'll see them. So I can show you, I've got a couple other perspectives here. So this next one here is the cost of capacity used. So this one is looking at it from a capacity, looking at the cost from a capacity perspective. So you have basically the percentage of capacity that you're using costs a certain amount, and then the capacity that you're not using has a cost associated with that. So the idea here is to show how that cost breaks down. So you don't necessarily want to have a lot of capacity, unused capacity. I mean, you need some to operate and to be able to handle growth and it's been, buying new servers takes time. So having some unused capacity is perfectly normal and expected. But you just want to be aware of your capacity remaining, just so you know where that fits in your cost and how much it costs. And you want to kind of manage to that as well. So I have other thing here showing like how many VMs can fit in the capacity remaining. So I'm not just saying, this is the cost of your capacity remaining, and this is, it's all waste. And that's not the case. It's just saying, with the capacity I have remaining, I can fit 1,098 virtual machines. So depending on my growth rate, maybe I expect to deploy 1,000 virtual machines in the next, the next 6 months. That may be expected. So that's just the idea here is just to make you think about it and understand, and just it's awareness is the important part.
Right. And that takes into account that remaining VMs. It takes into account buffer and HA and all that kind of good stuff. It
does, yes.
Yeah, very good.
It looks like that.
I think that's a key metric, in my opinion. I mean, it's really like, what can I fit? Like, I got this much. How many more VMs can I really fit in the capacity I have before I need to buy? Right. So to me, that's almost a key metric right there.
Exactly, and that kind of helps you understand how much buffer you have as well. So it kind of gives you a sense of timing and when you need to start worrying about it.
What else? Anything else you can share with us on your dashboard here?
Yeah, so there's another section here for cost per data center. So this is, again, the same sort of breakdown, but now this is looking at it on a data center by data center basis. So I can see if there are some data centers that are more expensive than others. Most customers I've talked to, when they see this section, they're like, oh, yep, that's our primary data center. Oh, that's our DR site. That's like, that's not really a surprise on most of them, but there might be some small sites or some other sites that you may not realize how much it's costing on those. I had one customer that actually said, "Oh, I didn't realize we had that much in that particular data center. Maybe we should start deploying some additional workloads in that data center, so we use up that infrastructure, use it better." And I thought that was a nice feedback from the customer. It's one of the reasons why I kind of added this on here is to just so you know where everything is, at least from a cost perspective. It really helps.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you might want, like you said, you might want to take advantage of a different data center that has a lower cost, or you realize your costs are getting pretty high in one data center and you want to, shift workloads or shift infrastructure over to balance it out. That's very interesting numbers. I don't think I've ever looked at it from that level before, a cost per data center.
Yeah, it has been very helpful for several customers that I've spoken to. So it definitely helps, and especially when you're looking at deploying new workloads, you can make a more informed decision.
Yeah, this is all really, really cool. And now this is available for download, right? Where could people get this dashboard?
It is. So I've posted a blog post on our management site. So we can I can send you a link to it. Hopefully we can put them in the notes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's available there. I've got instructions on how to download and install it. Like I said earlier, it's built on several dashboards. So you just want to make sure you get each of the dashboards and import them, and get this going.
Yeah, it's really an incredible thing. I mean, it's a nice collection of all those cost metrics in one. You've done a fantastic job on it. I wish I would have had this whole package of dashboards and used it every day, but I'm certainly going to champion this for my customers who are VRealize Ops. using it every day. It really does nice. And it's free, right? These dashboards are free. People can just download them and install them. That's the greatest thing about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome work, Brandon. Thanks so much for joining us today, too. It's been certainly a pleasure, having you on the show here, educating us about, all the things about running your infrastructure like a cloud provider. So before we let you go, Brandon, where can people find you?
So I do have a Twitter. I don't use it too much, but I'm at I am Notorious BDD on Twitter. So you can reach me there.
Awesome, and we'll put links to everything you've done in blog.vmware.com and directly to the dashboard and all of that kind of good stuff.
Thanks so much for showing us the dashboard, walking us through VRealize operations, and helping customers get started.
Thanks, Brandon.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
So, Dan, with that, what do you say we put a bow on yet another episode of Cloud Management Monthly?
Yeah, what a great episode to have Brandon on and talk about how to run infrastructure like public cloud. I definitely learned a lot today. What a great guest he was.
Yeah, absolutely. That dashboard is amazing. Again, we're going to put a link to that in the description below for you to download, as well as Brandon's Twitter, so forth. So reach out to him. He's a great person to have on our team, and very passionate about capacity costing. So loved having him on today. And thanks again, Brandon, for making the time for us.
Yeah, fantastic. And if you want to check out the rest of our podcast videos, feel free to head over to cloudmanagementmonthly.com. That'll redirect you right to our YouTube channel. And also don't forget that we are available via audio podcast on Google and Apple and Spotify and Podbean. So I think that does it for today's episode, Matt.
Yeah, thanks so much, everybody, for watching and for listening. And we'll see you next month.
See you, everybody.
All the awesome cost and pricing capabilities within.
All right, take 3. Channel where you can see Matt and I and how similar we look.
We're on fire today.
I don't know what the problem is. Instant.
Right. Good times.
You wouldn't believe the crap Matt says I have to edit out. Like, it's just terrible sometimes. It takes 3 or 4 days for me just to get all his mess ups out, right? And you can tell he's on the McDonald's Wi-Fi, as you can tell, right? He's
Exactly.
right across.
Yeah, he does look very pixelated there.
You know.
Hang on. Welcome to McDonald's. How can I take your order?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, right. Welcome to McDonald's. Would you like to supersize that? The answer is always no. In case you're wondering, the answer is never. You never supersize it, right? I don't know what the problem is with me today.
Thank you.